Hi, this is Doug and Brad with the Dark Sliders podcast.
Hey, everybody.
So this week, we haven't actually done an episode in about a week. Just a lot of stuff to do. But we've been playing some games, and this is going to be one of those shorter episodes where we just talk about one game, and that game is Battlefront. A game I didn't really play. I played the beta,
Yes.
and then I was in the camp of this thing wasn't really worth $60 to me. So,
Ouch.
but
Ouch.
Brad's a huge Star Wars fan, so I
I
think
am a
whatever
giant Star Wars fan.
yeah, so I think whatever we say today is going to be heavily biased as a Star Wars fan, which actually I'm kind of curious because if you have anything to say, I can understand why you'd say good things about it, but I'm curious what bad things you say, even if you are like a huge Star Wars fan, like what any sort of critiques you have. I guess just to get us started off, what is your overall impression of this game of Battlefront?
I like this game a lot. I don't think it's a great game at all. This is
Well,
definitely, if you look at reviews, it's like a right around a 75 C plus game. Like, that is what this game is. It's a very average game that I really, really enjoy
oh,
because it's Star Wars. Like, this goes from it's all right to I could sit and play this for hours because of the Star Wars effect. And I am completely aware of my giant bias towards it. Because I was thinking that the other day while I was sitting here, I was playing it and I woke up and I played it for like 4 hours. I was like, I have not played a competitive multiplayer shooter for that long since like Halo 3.
yeah. Oh, okay.
But just the Star Wars effect alone makes me just so excited. And just every time something happens, like, oh, this is so cool. This is so cool. And the first couple times I played this, like, I just sat down and walked around, and everything I saw was, oh, ooh, hey, that's the, oh, did they really put that? Like, you're going, one of the levels is the Hoth base, and walking through, I was like, that's the Bacta tank where Luke was when he got hurt, and Hoth, and he was in there, and there's the little droid standing next to, oh, that's awesome. And just like so many little things like that. And when you're on Endor, there's a spot where there's a Lambda class shuttle sitting there. I'm like, ooh, I don't think this is the same scene in the movie where like Vader's shuttle lands, but it's got that same appeal to it. So a
Yeah.
lot of this for me is I'm a giant nerd and I just like to sit here and pick out all the cool Star Wars stuff.
Does it still? I mean, like after your initial reaction though, like I can understand like your first time going through level, maybe second or third. Do you still feel that like this is Star Wars like every time you turn it on, or is at some point are you just like, oh, this is a game, this is got to get to the objective, or does it always feel like Star Wars?
I've put like 15 hours into this at this point, and I still have that. This is Star Wars. I'm playing Star Wars. I'm playing Star Wars. This is Star Wars.
Oh,
This isn't a
okay.
game. This is Star Wars. So I think part of that just has to do with how gorgeous this game is and how
Hmm.
perfectly rendered everything is, because it really just everything matches what you picture it matching from the movies or from the books. Like everything is just so well designed that the look of it is perfect.
Hmm.
And then as you're playing it, the couple different game modes. Now, most of the game modes are pretty terrible. We can talk about those in a second.
Yeah.
But the couple main ones, Walker Assault, which was the one in the beta,
Hmm.
Supremacy, which is more your kind of classic battlefield style gameplay where it's get the control point before the other one. Those ones really feel like what you would picture a Star Wars battle feeling like if you were to be in it, just because
Hmm.
you've got the vehicles running around, you've got just kind of almost this cannon fodder feel at different times where you're just running into this objective, you're seeing guys get mowed down left and right and left and right.
Hmm.
That it really feels like every time you're playing it, it has that very cinematic feeling to it.
So how many modes are there? That's like two good modes out of.
There's like, oh, I'm trying to picture on the screen. I want to say 12, 9 or 12.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it's 3 rows of 3 or 4 rows of 3 on the screen, but there's like 12 modes.
So like,
Most of them,
are the other roads? Are what is there something like that's just makes them not as good? Or are they just straight up bad? Are they
I don't think any of them are straight up bad. They're just much more limited in scope. So you've got team deathmatch,
okay?
just straight, which for a game like this takes a lot of the Star Wars aspects out, and it's just running around shooting people. It's no different
Hmm.
than any other game, and that's one of the few modes that I play where it's like, okay, yep, this I might as well be playing Call of Duty, I might as well be playing Killzone, doesn't matter. It's pretty much that exact same gameplay.
Yeah.
It does have a couple very unique modes that I think are good in a very gimmicky way. So you've
Okay.
got one that's hero, I don't remember the name of it, it's like hero battle, and it's 6-on-6, and 3 people play as the 3 hero characters for the Rebellion and the Empire, and you just have to try and kill the hero characters.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which, getting into the game, it's like, okay, now I can play right away as Vader, as Boba Fett, as Han Solo. I can do that right away. There's none of this. I have to go find a pickup for it. It's just match starts, round 1, pick a hero.
Mm-hmm.
Round 2, pick a hero. Round 3, go kill the hero. So it's kind of fun just to try because you get that, okay, we've got Darth Vader, Boba Fett, Luke Skywalker, Han Solo all shooting at each other all in the same area, which is cool, but
Mm-hmm.
it just doesn't play very well because the hero characters, I don't feel like are as strong as they could be. They feel very just kind of there, and
Yeah,
there's no real way to master them. It's more of just a, yep, you're an overpowered guy with a sword. Your blaster's much stronger. There's no real mastery element of it.
yeah. I mean, those guys, they're kind of like Easter egg is not the right word, but they're not like supposed to be balanced characters. They're supposed to be like crazy unbalanced characters when you're in those like sort of war zoney sort of mode types. I think that's always
Exactly.
been the case with Battlefront, though. Okay, speaking of, I never played the old Battlefronts. Like, how? Not, I'm not saying content wise because I'm sure it's not as that doesn't have as much content. But like, how do you feel about just like the general gameplay compared to like the old Battlefronts? Like when you're playing this, is this Battlefront 3 or is this something new? But it's so different that you can't really put in the same franchise even.
I think it feels the same. It's the same concept. It's been, 10 years or so since Battlefront 2.
Hmm.
So the gameplay is much more refined. It feels a little bit different just because you've gone from PS2 era first person shooter to now PS4 era PS or first person shooter, which
Hmm.
there's been a lot of changes in that time. So the feeling's a little bit different, but I the same feeling I got when I played Battlefront back on the PlayStation, I have now, which is I am in a Star Wars movie right now. I am a part of this. This feels like I'm living out the battle scenes from the movie, which is really, again, all I want. The gameplay, again, great. It's fine. It's serviceable. That's fine. But the feeling is what really gets me with this game, where I
Hmm.
can feel like I'm in the movie right now.
That's pretty cool. My sort of feeling with the game, like when I played the beta, because okay, so I think I put maybe 2 or 3 hours in the beta. The thing I didn't like it, I liked when I was playing, I did feel like I was in a Star Wars, but there's all these like little elements that kept popping out that made me feel like I wasn't in Star Wars. And it kind of, I don't know, maybe it just like kind of killed the mood. Was like the pickups I really didn't like, and I didn't like that there's like all these icons on screen and like different bars loading and things like that. I just kind of felt honestly I felt like I don't know I haven't played the full version but I felt like the most Star Warsy aspect of it was playing the survival mode because I was staying alive for like more than 30 seconds and I could just like exist in that world shooting stormtroopers for like 10 minutes without, I was still kind of hard. I mean, I die still occasionally, but I felt like just because that mode had the least amount of like weird power ups and stuff that I felt more like I was in Star Wars. I don't know. How do you feel about that? I guess my question is, how do you feel about like the power ups dictating a lot of things? Because like you don't take off in an X Wing you don't take off in an AT-AT. You pick up a power up, and suddenly you're an X-wing, and suddenly you're an AT-AT, or suddenly you're a hero.
I don't really mind it. I like it better than the kill streak element of Call of Duty
Oh,
because
okay, yeah.
essentially it's replacing that idea.
Mhm.
And I like this much more because I feel like me being a much more casual player, so to speak, I mean, comparatively,
Yeah.
obviously not casual in terms of time and stuff like that, but casual in terms of my intensity towards this game. I
Mhm.
don't, that's always my issue with Call of Duty is I don't feel like I should not get to play with the fun stuff because I'm not quite as good as somebody else. Whereas this one pretty much opens it up and hey, it's your first time. If you find the AT-AT pickup, you can go shoot stuff in it. You found the Darth Vader pickup, great, go play as Darth Vader. I like that element a lot more than I like the idea of kill streaks. And I think that just
Okay,
goes
yeah.
back. We've talked about before that I think both of us are more in the mindset of Unreal Tournament first person shooter versus Call of Duty first person shooter. And to me, it makes it much more okay. I ran and I found my rocket launcher. I'm going to shoot somebody versus I only got 3 kills in a row that time, so I'm still stuck with my crappy gun.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And yeah. There's still a huge level up system in there, isn't there?
Kind of. It doesn't really feel like it does a whole lot, and you rank up pretty quickly.
Mm.
but basically it's heavy power up things, but you can really play this game and be perfectly fine without using it just because I kind of forgot about it and was having fun playing the game, and I really could care less about, oh, my multiplayer level is blank. I really paid zero attention to it for about the first 10 hours and did
Mm-hmm.
perfectly fine with basically the starting blaster rifle and the thermal detonator and crap, what was the other star
Wait,
card
you
I
didn't
had?
like touch like any of the other items and stuff? Isn't that the whole point? Like you get like blasters and new items and jetpacks and blah blah blah.
Yeah, but again, to me, this is I don't care about that, and that's been why I don't think I ever get into these multiplayer games is because that's not a reward for me. I'm just using a different looking gun and it does the same thing.
Oh, okay.
Like it doesn't have it. There's no motivating effect for me to go, ooh, now I have the AC-18 gun instead of the E11 blaster.
But
They're both going to shoot the guy in front of me, and it ultimately comes down to my skill. And yes, the gun works slightly differently, but to me, it's just like, whatever. I just want to shoot that guy.
so is it basically it's like enough for you for it to be Star Wars and like you don't need all that extra.
Yeah, completely. And I think that's where I'm going to fully admit that I'm completely biased in this, and I'm a very different type of person than a lot of people because I can see why this game does not have the greatest reviews. I mean, it's last time I looked flirting with a 75, I think, on Metacritic,
Yeah.
which I can totally get that because if you are not a huge Star Wars person, the element of this game that I find the most engaging and I feel is the most motivating to just enjoy being in the Star Wars universe is gone. You don't have that, then it's a
Yeah.
very average first person slash third person shooter that has some modes and it has a very, very bare bones single player campaign.
Yeah, I was thinking
Loosely
about this
campaign.
I was thinking about this game and like I don't think I'll ever pick it up and play it because I felt like the game almost sacrificed too much to be Star Wars. Not that I'm saying the Star Wars license held it back, but just like how the weapons work, because like you need to see your because in the Star Wars universe, like you see the lasers move, so like every single weapon you use has to have some sort of lead on the guy, and they all have
Yep.
to fire at the same rates they do in the movie, even though that's not necessarily the most doesn't really make sense for a video game where guns you normally fire faster. Um, and it like controlling the AT-AT like an AT-AT is kind of like a ridiculous looking it's a cool looking thing, but it's a ridiculous practical thing. So when you're playing as the
Yeah.
AT-AT, it's like, well, how the hell do you control an AT-AT? It's like, well, you can sort of just kind of move it around and
Move its
shoot, but
head left and right a little bit and call it good.
yeah, because like it doesn't really like how an AT-AT works like really doesn't make sense like for just like think about control. So I was a bit worried like when I picked it up that I was like, I feel like they're sacrificing a lot just to make it more like the movies, which I can understand, but to me, like, I guess that was okay because it is like the most authentic Star Wars experience ever. Um, at least from what I could tell. Like, I
Yeah.
when I played it, I did feel like I was like when I was like playing the Hoth, I was like, holy shit, this is like the most Star Warsy thing. Like this, it looks like the movie, which is crazy. I think.
And that's the thing that keeps hooking me in is this game is not supposed to be Call of Duty. And if you go in thinking like this is that hardcore esports Call of Duty, how many times can I prestige and blah 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 whatever other the fancy Call of Duty talk is. I don't play
Yeah.
Call of Duty at all. This game is not that. This game is we wanted to make a game that is the best Star Wars experience you can have. And I think it hits that perfectly. Now, does
Hmm.
it sacrifice some gameplay? Yes, but I think that's an element of we want this to not be a game that is a hardcore esports game.
Yeah, yeah,
Every first person shooter now has to be, oh, we're for the esports and we're for esports and esports and esports, which is great.
yeah. Hmm.
But there's people like me who the more you say esports and the more you push it in that direction and you make it more and more this hardcore, very there's a certain way to play it and there's a certain thing you have to do and there's a certain way to be good at it,
Hmm.
the more you push it that way, the less I want to play it. We talked about this with Halo 5.
Yeah.
The second they started talking esports and how it's the best esports experience, I was done. I was
Yeah.
out. I'm like, nope, I missed my Halo where it was just fun. It was you go pick up the stuff, you shoot at other people. As soon as you get into that, you're changing audiences. And if you want this to be about the experience, I feel like it serves it better not having that hardcore esports approach.
What? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can understand that. I do. When I was thinking about this game, I do you like that it's a multiplayer game? Like, would you prefer that you're shooting a bunch of AI guys instead of humans with a more like? Does this game benefit from actually being a multiplayer game to you?
I think when you do those large scale battles in AI with an AI, even now with the AI technology that we have, there's still that okay, I know the pattern. I know what this guy's going to do.
Hmm.
That unpredictability I always feel like adds a little bit of a level of realism to it. Would I have been fine if it's a single player game? Yes. Do I play the single player? Yes. Is there a difference between multiplayer and single player? Absolutely, and that's in the fact
Hmm.
that okay, this is a little bit more unpredictable. You know,
Hmm.
a AI isn't going to dive bomb a TIE fighter on top of me,
Oh yeah.
and it just gives it that element of
Hmm.
unpredictability that I think works really well because this is such a large scale game, because there's so many different elements to it with ships, vehicles, hero characters. That unpredictability element of it really does change the way you feel about it. I can tell you I've interacted with zero people. I have never turned a mic on. I've never talked with anybody. I do okay when I'm playing it, and I don't think that hinders the experience at all.
I can understand that. I this game I kind of felt like when I was playing the multiplayer aspect kind of hurt it because I just wanted to be in Star Wars. I didn't care if anybody else was with me. So I felt like, I'd like this game if it didn't have leaderboards, if it didn't have this. And I kept thinking more and more about it. And then I realized, like, holy shit, that single player EA game that they're making is going to be effing crazy. Because at the very least, I think Battlefront was just a way for them to get just a humongous library of assets. Like they have a
Oh
perfect
yeah.
stormtrooper now. They have a perfect Hoth trooper. They have a perfect whatever alien. They have a perfect Darth Vader model. They have the animations down, everything like that. It's like holy crap. When they apply this to a single player game, oh, Jesus Christ. I I
Mm-hmm.
just kind of this game made me when I was playing, it just made me want a single player game that didn't have all those like all the stereotypical multiplayer aspects to it, and just be in that universe. So I feel
Yeah.
like Battlefront got me more excited for it, for not it, but like the future of Star Wars games.
Yeah. And I think when Battlefront first came out, it was the change of pace game. It was the we've had a sea of first person shooters, of action adventure Star Wars games. Here is a multiplayer focused Star Wars game.
Mm-hmm.
So when Battlefield or Battlefront 1 and 2 came out, it had that element of this is different than any Star Wars you've played before.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's been so long since we've had that really solid single player Star Wars thing that you're going, okay, this is cool, but what happened to the single player one? Like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
could do
yeah.
some awesome single player things with this, but knowing those are coming and knowing that, back in those days, this was the change of pace. Battlefront 2, yeah, it came out, but so did Star Wars, Bounty Hunter and Star Wars The Clone Wars, those all came out in the same year.
Mm-hmm.
So this was your one multiplayer game versus the three single players. Now when it's the only one removed there, you're going, where's my single player? Where's my single player? Because you're looking for that, but that's not what this game is about.
Yeah, I think right now I think people are sort of getting burned out on multiplayer games because like multiplayer is no longer like I think back when like the original Battlefront came out, like online multiplayer was still like a whoa, we're playing online. But now it's just like I think just with like the rise of
Mm-hmm.
Call of Duty and Halo and Battlefield and all of these like multiplayer, like we know what multiplayer games are like, and I think the next gen there's not a lot of next gen multiplayer experiences. And I kind of feel like that we're now craving those single player ones. Kind of like what you were saying, like where's our single player Star Wars game? Because we're so used to multiplayer games now that it almost feels like those really crazy AAA single player games are more no longer the norm. Even like
Yeah.
Halo and stuff. It's like with like Halo and Call of Duty, like those are the multiplayer games. They have really amazing campaigns, but people play those games for the multiplayer. So I think it's kind of crazy this day and age, and people are kind of like want, especially with like Uncharted. Well, even Uncharted as a multiplayer. I think people are kind of starting to crave those single player experiences again. I really think Battlefront is just gonna. I don't know. I think it's set a really good precedent for what we can expect for Star Wars. It's gonna be. Oh my god, it's gonna be so cool.
Oh yeah. I think it's a great way to get the series back into video games,
Hmm.
back onto consoles. I mean, it's been since Force Unleashed 2, I think, since was the last Star Wars game that I can really think of for
Like legitimate big. Even that was kind of like
yeah.
a
Fortunately, yeah, 2 was not so great. The first one I loved, but
I'd say the first one was probably I'd say probably the first one was like the last big budget Star Wars
big
game.
Star Wars game. So I mean, that was probably what 2009, 8. It's been
It's been a while.
probably 7, 8 years since we've really had that. So I think it's a great way to get people back into the mindset of Star Wars. Remember that, oh man, these games used to be great,
Hmm.
and it's a great nostalgia piece to pull people into that and then go and blow their minds with whatever comes out next year for Star Wars.
Yeah. Hopefully next year. I guess we'll see.
Oh, I'm sure it will be. I I'm fingers crossed there's a Star Wars game every year.
Ugh, there's absolutely gonna be a Star Wars game every year.
But
Probably.
but the thing with it is because EA is such a giant developer,
Hmm.
they have so many studios that work on it that you probably can avoid the annualization problems you run into with Assassin's Creed, where it's like, okay, yeah, this year was Battlefront. Next year, we're bringing you whatever that first single player game is, maybe the one that Visceral's working on.
Yeah.
The year after, BioWare's back to KOTOR. You know what I mean? There's enough studios that, yeah, there's a Star Wars game every year, but it's not going to be that Assassin's Creed of, yep, that's you changed the look of that building.
Yeah, I think the idea of EA having a bunch of different development studios making different Star Wars franchises is actually that's pretty damn exciting. Actually, I'm
Oh
sure we're
yeah,
still
I'm
gonna get
pumped.
crap on
I'm so
shovelware
excited.
too. Um, tons of
But hey,
cell phone games. Is gonna oh god, there's gonna be so much
oh,
stuff
they're gonna
on
be crazy. If you're a Star Wars fan, there's no way you can pass this up. If you have a very limited interest in Star Wars, your money's probably better spent elsewhere,
there. Hmm.
just because the draw of this is the Star Wars license. It's not a game that's going to blow anybody's mind in terms of gameplay, in terms of new gameplay experiences. It's the classic gameplay experiences you've had with a Star Wars twist. So
Hmm.
I guess to me, Star Wars fans, this is a go out and get it now. It's so much fun just playing around in this universe. Not a Star Wars fan, check it out. It's a fun game. It's not a great game, but it's a fun game.
Yeah, I'm probably in that camp. I'll probably give it a rental or
Yeah, that's
something.
kind of what I'm figuring.
All right. Well, neither of us has picked up Fallout 4 yet. I think in the future I'll be talking about the Bloodborne DLC. Not sure there's any other big games. Well, one of us will eventually pick up Fallout, I'm sure, and then we can talk about that later.
Yep.
But yeah.
I finally got Persona 4.
Oh,
That'll be fun
Pers-
to talk about.
yeah. Persona 4 is a fun game to talk about. So I guess you guys can look forward to that to next episode. We should have a normal episode next week. We'll see. It's Thanksgiving week, so everything's kind of crazy right now. All right, so that was the Dark Sliders podcast with Doug and Brad. You can follow us on Twitter at @DarkSliders_POD. You can also follow us on YouTube. We're on iTunes. We're on SoundCloud. We're on iHeartRadio. We're on a bunch of stuff. Basically, wherever you're listening to us, you can subscribe to us.